Ahead on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
On this week's edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, preparing the next generation of cattle producers to lead the industry. Plus, NCBA leaders explain why fighting the so-called death tax is key to our industry's survival.
And now, NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. Topping this week's cattle industry news, a piece of legislation in North Dakota could have long-term consequences for farmers and ranchers in that state. It's called Measure 5, and it's on the ballot in North Dakota. It's being funded by the Humane Society of the United States. If passed, Measure 5 would make it a Class C felony to kill a dog, cat, or horse. It also says that in order to put down one of these animals, a veterinarian must be present. This could put a lot of pressure on farming and ranching families. While this will have immediate ramifications for cattlemen in North Dakota, it could also open the door for similar pieces of legislation to pop up on ballots in other states across the country as well. Jason Schmidt, chairman of the North Dakota Animal Stewards, says this is just another example of why everyone needs to research what's on their ballot before Election Day.
This is all funded from HSUS from outside the state. They're pouring in the funds for this. It wouldn't happen if it wasn't for them. We want people to be clear, at least when they go in, and know both sides of the story. Know that this isn't just your local person down the street. This is outside money, outside interest coming in. We need them to know, what's behind the scenes. So we think this is precedent-setting legislation. We think that if they get this passed here in our state, that they are going to try to make this law of the land in every other state out there, and it will be an uphill battle, and it will be a foot in the door for HSUS.
For more information on Measure 5 or to learn more about other important issues facing the beef industry, you can visit our website at cattlemantocattleman.org. Another issue that will be impacted this election season, the future of the death tax. As the current generation of cattlemen age, it's a top-of-mind issue. Let's hear what our NCBA leaders have to say.
Well, the death tax is our number one priority this year. The thing that I think we always say about cattlemen is the thing that we're always trying to do is we've got a great business, usually family businesses. We build them up, take care of the environment, take care of the animals, and then the thing we really want to do is pass it over to our next generation. And the thing that the death tax has the capability of doing, if not corrected, could not make it possible for some of our next generation to take over the operations. If it is such a steep tax that they've got to sell land, equipment, machinery, cattle, and so on to pay the debt, instead of carrying on with the tradition of the cattle business, it really should never be that way.
And farmers and ranchers across the country, it has been a really tough deal for them to have to face when they lose someone from the older generation and have to have those worries about how they're going to make up for that and pay that tax and continue to be productive and produce food and fiber for our nation as well. And so that's a huge priority.
Repealing the death tax is extremely important for our producers. Right now, the current level for taxation is each individual can take $5 million out, and then the remainder is taxed at 35%. However, at the end of this year, that changes. It reverts back to the original law, which is $1 million per individual, and then a 55% tax rate. And for our cattle producers, it doesn't take very long for the assets to accumulate and get up into where they will make those limits. And then their estate a lot of times is absolutely destroyed because they have to sell in order to pay the tax, the death tax. And so this is extremely problematic for our producers. Here they've worked their whole lives building their operation, and they've paid taxes all the way through as they've earned it, and now suddenly at death they have to sell off half of it, for example, to pay the death tax. So we're trying real hard. This is our top priority for NCBA this year, is repeal the death tax.
It's issues just like this that NCBA fights for every day on Capitol Hill. You can join the fight by becoming a member of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Just give us a call at 1-866-USA-BEEF or visit beefusa.org. Beef exports are down, and analysts say that's likely because of higher prices. So what does this mean for 2013? We have more in this week's Market Watch.
Market Watch, brought to you by Pfizer Animal Health.
Here in the studio to give us a quick beef export update is Brett Stewart, market analyst with Cattle Facts. Brett, thanks for coming back to the show.
Good to be here, Kevin.
Well, after breaking records in 2011, we've seen exports trend down in 2012, and simultaneously we're seeing global population increases and increases in global income. Give us your explanation.
Well, that's a good question, Kevin. You know, we kind of gauge our success, I guess, by our export volumes. And we've seen stair-step year after year export growth. And then we come to a year like this and we see this decline. Through August, the most recent trade data, we're down 12% in volume. But I think the piece that we need to look at is in value. If we look at beef export value, we're actually slightly above a year ago. And so you consider that. We've been talking for years. We're on 4 consecutive years of global beef production declines. And so as we see supplies get tighter, the price goes up. And so looking at where we are here in 2012, we're seeing those tight supplies drive higher prices. It isn't necessarily a cause for concern. We know how tight the supplies are here at home, and what's happened is those tight supplies have just caused people to bid higher prices to get that beef.
Speaking of cause for concern, you know, in 2003 we saw the export market be decimated. Some people suggest that we should be concerned about becoming too dependent on foreign trade. Is that true?
There are some concerns out there, and we've seen it also in the pork side. We look at beef, we export about 10-11% of our production. Pork exports 23%. And those seem high, but you look around the world, Australia exports 80% of their beef production. But it is a concern. I worked for the Meat Export Federation when BSE hit, and it was pretty rough. And the climb back out of that hole has been long and difficult. And so obviously, yeah, that's a concern. But I would take a look at it this way. If you look at the last 4 years, 2008 we start with the recession, and we look at what's happened those past 4 years. U.S. household incomes declined, restaurant spending has been stagnant, consumers have tightened the belt, and here we've had record high cattle prices, all classes of cattle, record high beef prices. And there is no way we could have done that without exports. And so I would twist that argument the other way and say what exports have really done for us. They've helped us reduce risk from our biggest dependency, which is our own market. And so you think about what that means. For example, you look at even looking outside into the export market, 2003 we exported 92% of our beef to 4 markets. We were pretty dependent on single market issues. This year we're going to export 65% of our beef to those same 4 markets. And so we've diversified not only away from the U.S., but we've diversified even out in the world. And you look at what the issues can be, what could happen. We could have, who knows, some kind of media stunt in the U.S. that tries to damage demand for our product. Thank goodness we have exports, and I think the last 4 years are a real testament to the value that those exports have derived for us.
That's helpful insight. And let's talk about one of those markets, Japan. You know, we've heard a lot about it. Are they going to lift their restrictions, and if so, when?
I've been answering that question for 9 years now, and I've been wrong, I think, every time. I'm not very good when it comes to trying to forecast Japanese politicians, I guess. But you look at where we're at, and what's different this time, the regulations that are proposed today were proposed by Japan. They were Japan-driven. And so Japan's moving through their domestic process. And it appears that things are moving in sync with where they should be. The latest news out of Japan is we could hear an announcement on lifting those restrictions possibly by year end. And I guess my best guess scenario today is that we start seeing bigger volumes going into Japan after the first of the year.
Gotcha. Very helpful, and we'll be back to you in December, see how that's going, all right?
Okay.
Thanks for coming to the show, Brett.
Good to be here, Kevin.
For more expert analysis on beef exports, visit cattlefacts.com. Ahead on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
If we don't get the next generation more involved, there's going to be no future of agriculture.
What one California ranch is doing to encourage the next generation of cattle producers. Plus, the 2012 Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame inductees and award winners. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
You're watching NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman on RFD TV.
When predicting the genetic merit of young Angus cattle, some genomic tests only give you part of the story. For the most complete and dependable evaluation of genetic potential, with more markers and coverage for economically important traits, there's only one genomic test that won't leave Angus breeders in the dark.
John Deere K-Series loaders. You asked for a machine beefy enough to handle your harsh work environment, and John Deere delivered. Axle coolers, reversing fans, and a dual hydraulic differential lock keep your machine productive for years to come. And with dozens of options, this loader is king of the cattle business. Your dealer can spec a K-Series loader that's just right for you. See your dealer today.
Fall time means sale time, and the 2012 Cowman's Kind Brangus Bull and Female sale at Blackwater Cattle Company is just around the corner. This year's sale will include 200 true beef Brangus bulls, 20 select registered Brangus females, and 500 private treaty commercial Brangus females.
There's nobody in the country that puts more emphasis on soundness of skeleton, efficiency, and pounds.
The Blackwater crew produces genetically superior Brangus bulls that will put more money in your pocket.
We will not waver from trying to produce the very best bulls in the breed. We stand behind these bulls 100%.
The Blackwater Cattle Company Fall Sale will take place on November 10th at 12:30 p.m. in Lake Park, Georgia. If you're in the market for a bull that will sire calves that press the scales, produce unparalleled replacement quality females, or carcass up, make Blackwater Cattle Company your choice. We guarantee these are real beef bulls and the best in the country. For more information, call Mike at 229-232-3096 or Tracy at 979-255-4357 or visit blackwatercattlecompany.com.
Welcome back. The Chekhov-funded Beef Innovations Group is a team of industry experts that work together to find new ways to increase beef demand. The group works to provide new and innovative products to consumers and retailers alike. And they also do a lot of research on creating new cuts of beef. Here in the studio to talk about the Beef Innovations Group and some of the work they're doing on new cuts is Bridget Wasser, Senior Director of Meat Science and Technology for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Thanks so much for coming back to the show, Bridget.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's begin by talking about the Beef Innovations Group itself. Tell us, what is the purpose of your group?
Well, the Beef Innovations Group is a mixture of Chekhov staff as well as industry expert advisors, and we really come together and work to catalyze beef product innovations in the industry. And it's a fun group because we're charged with thinking several years down the road and what's next for beef to make sure that we're relevant and always delivering on evolving consumer demands.
Well, the Chekhov has made some great progress in bringing some exciting new cuts to the industry that consumers seem to love. Tell us a little bit about how that work has actually happened.
Well, it really has its foundation in Chekhov-funded research, something called muscle profiling.
Okay.
And that's where we evaluated all the different muscles in the carcass, really with the goal of identifying our most underutilized muscles and maybe what some of the best ones of those are and how we might better utilize them. You know, I think we know a lot about the traditional cuts and muscles in the carcass from the rib and the loin and the sirloin, things that are our most popular cuts over time. But we've been able to take a closer look at some of our underutilized muscles in areas like the chuck and try to add some value to those while also delivering a really good eating experience, that steak quality eating experience that we know our consumers are looking for. We've also continued that checkoff research. We've done things like map the tenderness of all the muscles in the chuck so we know the best way to cut those muscles. We've worked on optimum aging times for muscles because we know how important aging and cutting across the grain are in terms of beef tenderness. And so that work continues. The work has identified some diamonds in the rough, so some muscles that we really aren't taking full advantage of, but that can really deliver from an eating experience standpoint if we'll do a little bit of additional or innovative fabrication to get to those.
And you've brought some of those diamonds in the rough for us to see today, some of which may not be common to a lot of our viewers, but certainly some that I recognize. Tell us what you have here.
Well, I have a variety of different cuts, and they all come from the beef chuck. We're going to start by talking about some cuts from the shoulder clod, which is one portion of the beef chuck, and the chuck being one of the most underutilized and undervalued portions of the carcass before this work began.
I mean, we used to just, again, either chuck roast or grind it as hamburger, right?
Yeah, for the most part. So that's why this work is adding some value and getting some traction. But this cut we have here is the beef flat iron, and that's one that your viewers might be somewhat familiar with. It's from an extremely tender muscle in the chuck, but the one thing about it is there's quite a bit of natural heavy connective tissue that's present on the muscle that we cut the flat iron from. And so what makes it a flat iron steak and not a traditional top blade steak, which is cut from that same muscle, is the fabrication method. And it's taking the extra step of removing that heavy connective tissue, both what's on the outside that we can see and some that's hidden on the inside that we can't see. So by going that extra step, we can take advantage of the tenderness that that muscle has.
But create a great eating experience.
Great eating experience, great muscle for the grill.
Tenderness.
Very tender, very flavorful. And when you see this square, rectangular shaped steak on the flat iron, that's how you know it's cut correctly. It's a little bit of a unique steak shape for our steaks, but it's because of the removal of that connective tissue. And if any of your viewers haven't seen it or had it, I just say keep your eye open, because we are seeing it widely available now at most restaurants and grocery store chains across the country. And if they haven't seen it, they will soon.
Absolutely. What else do we have?
Well, we have some newer cuts, even newer than the flat iron, that we've been working on from the chuck roll. So we've leveraged the learnings from the flat iron work and applied those learnings to new ways to cut the chuck roll, which is also in the chuck adjacent to the shoulder clod. And so I have 3 cuts here. These are what we call our boneless country style ribs. This is a chuck eye or Delmonico steak. And this is a chuck eye roast or America's beef roast.
Very good.
And I want to focus mainly on the country style ribs because they're a really unique item. They're cut from the chuck eye roll, and they do need to be braised. And braising is cooking in shallow liquid to improve tenderness. And when you do that with these ribs, they really start to fall apart. They have a really rich flavor, great texture, and it's a unique eating experience. It gives us another option for beef ribs, so it extends our rib category for beef. And the uniqueness of these ribs is what's helping generate some interest in them out there in the industry.
That's great. Well, these are great, and I guess the only question becomes, so once you develop these wonderful products, then what is the Beef Checkoff doing to actually communicate and get the word out, both to consumers and retailers and restaurateurs alike, about how to use these cuts?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's actually what we spend the majority of our time on. Is we do that in several different ways. We have face-to-face meetings with key industry players to help educate them on how to cut these cuts and generate interest in them. We work with their state beef councils on partnerships and activities. And we also have a good interactive website, a checkoff on a website that we've worked on that has great, easy to follow cutting videos. It has recipe ideas and the tenderness information, everything you would need. So it's a big education effort, but we're committed to seeing it through.
Well, thank you so much for all you do to add value to our industry. This is outstanding work, Bridget.
Thanks.
For more information on the Beef Innovations Group and the projects they're working on, just log on to our website at cattlemantocattleman.org. We'll be right back.
There's something wrong. His head is down. He's clearly stressed. He's worried sick about BRD. That's why there's prescription Zactran for BRD treatment and control in high-risk cattle. Get a rapid response plus 10-day treatment and control in a single dose, so you can stop worrying and get back to business. For use in cattle only, do not treat cattle within 35 days of slaughter. Because a discard time in milk has not been established, do not use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, or in calves to be processed for veal. The effects of Zactran on bovine reproductive performance, pregnancy, and lactation have not been determined. Don't worry yourself sick. Talk to your veterinarian about a real alternative for BRD treatment and control. Because it's critical, it's Zactran from Marielle, a leading animal health company.
To stay up to date on beef industry news and the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, check out beefusa.org. You'll find news on both the Federation of State Beef Councils and the work of NCBA on Capitol Hill. Plus, link to NCBA programs like the blog, Beltway Beef, updates on the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show, and the latest from NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. Connect today at beefusa.org.
Welcome back. Every year, the Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame makes a point to honor the exceptional men and women who inspire the cattle feeding community through their work. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Brian Baxter shows us how the 2012 Hall of Fame inductees and award winners have made a difference.
The Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame culminates every year with an event hosted by its founders Merck Animal Health, Drover's Cattle Network, and Osborne Bar. It's when all of the long days of being a cattle feeder are recognized by fellow peers and industry leaders.
We're honoring two cattle feeders that are no longer with us anymore, so the families will be accepting the awards. Robert Rebholz Sr., a cattle feeder from the Pacific Northwest, who worked very hard on the beef board and was just a leader in a lot of beef activities throughout his lifetime. Our other winner is Willard Sparks.
Willard was probably the smartest guy I ever met. He was a genius, he was compassionate, great businessman, an honor to work for him.
Willard Sparks made his legacy through hard work, determination, and a love for the cattle feeding industry. He found opportunities to improve cattle feeding through his research and philanthropy. His exceptional involvement in the agricultural community earns him a spot in the Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame.
He left a mark both in the ag research arena and in cattle feeding, and so it's important to honor people that have made a name in the industry and left a legacy and the importance of what we do.
Just like Willard Sparks, Robert Rebholz Sr. left a lasting legacy through his entrepreneurial spirit.
I think there's nothing that Bob loved more than to take a person and give him opportunities that were beyond what his expectations were. The ability to be able to develop people beyond what they even expected they could do themselves.
Robert Rebholz Sr.'s commitment to producing high-quality beef led him to establish Agri-Beef. He focused on the sustainability and culture of the company while also improving the well-being of the cattle he produced.
He set a vision for our company years ago. He set the culture of the company years ago about trying to be just the best industry-leading kind of company that we can become.
I think every one of us who knew Bob would recognize that foundation that he put in place is the reason why we're successful.
The thing he loved most about the cattle feeding business is the people, straight through and through. All the experiences he had, working in industry associations, or whether it's customers or suppliers or whoever it was what can we do as a whole in this industry to make it better.
Terry Klopfenstein also works to improve the cattle feeding industry. As a professor at the University of Nebraska, Terry leads innovative research focusing on ruminant nutrition. His outstanding leadership and contributions to the future of cattle feeding are being recognized by the Hall of Fame with the 2012 Industry Leadership Award.
Well, it's rather humbling. I know a lot of people that are deserving of this. You can see it's hard for me to express how I feel about it. On the one hand, I appreciate it. I don't want it to sound like I don't appreciate it, but that's not why I go to work every day, and that's not why I spend time with students, and why I spend time with cattle feeders. And we're in a really interesting time in the cattle industry right now. So it's really interesting, tough, but interesting. And so that's why I've done what I've done, not to get awards.
The Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame gives recognition to those who rarely receive it. It's also a chance for the beef industry to celebrate the achievements of the individuals who've shaped the way beef is produced.
I think organizations like Cattle Feeder Hall of Fame and many of the others are doing a great service to the industry to celebrate the accomplishments and the leadership that is going to help us persevere through a lot of change. We're honored to be partners with Merck and Drover Advanced Cattle Network to have started this and to honor the great men and women who committed their lives to helping feed the world and being part of such a great, vibrant industry such as the beef industry.
Cattle feeders really, I kind of look at it as they're that bridge between the packer and the rest of the cattle industry. It's all a chain, and so it's important to see each segment healthy, because when we have a healthy chain from the packer all the way down to the cow-calf guy, that means that everybody's going to be in some black ink, and that's the thing we want to see.
If you look at the cattle feeders that have been honored historically, these are folks that really made a difference to our industry. Cattle feeding is a unique thing. We take it for granted in the United States.
Reporting from the Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame in Denver, Colorado, I'm Brian Baxter for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
The Arturo Armendaro's Distinguished Service Award is also given at the Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame. This year, Hector Pacheco of Meloland Cattle Company in El Centro, California, is the award's recipient. Hector was unable to attend the event, but was recognized by his peers for more than 60 years of dedication to the cattle feeding industry. To learn more about the 2012 Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame inductees and their service to the beef industry, head to our website at cattlemantocattleman.org. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Preventing cattle pink eye is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Vaccinate your animals with Piligard Pink Eye TriView to provide pink eye fighting antibodies in the tears that bathe the eye. Broad spectrum protection that cross-reacts with 103 different strains of pink eye causing bacteria. 2. Stop the flies that spread pink eye bacteria throughout the herd. Apply double barrel VP ear tags and Ultra Boss Pour-On for up to 5 months of face fly and horn fly control. 3. Manage the environment to reduce damage to the animal's eye from seed heads, pollen, and UV light, irritants that increase the risk of pink eye infection. With the right tools, preventing pink eye is as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Tough trailers built for tough country. Big Ben Trailers manufactures a different kind of trailer, one that's built to put up with the rough conditions found on the ranch. Rugged build using heavy gauge powder-coated steel and a 2x4 rectangle tube frame. There's a 1-inch gap between the side and floor, so there's no place for water or manure to accumulate and rust. Big Ben trailers are loaded with standard features: a lever action hitch, a 3-foot escape gate and a middle sorting gate, rhino lining along the front edges, and a receiver hitch to tow another trailer, chute, or other equipment. Tough and practical. That's Big Ben Trailers, designed and built by a working cattleman. You can rely on and trust Big Ben Trailers for their durability and convenient features. Reasonably priced for any rancher to afford. For a list of dealers and other design features, visit BigBenTrailers.com. Big Ben Trailers, built cattlemen tough.
The average age of a cattle producer today is 57 years old, and that number is continuing to increase. That means the next generation of young cattle producers is more important than ever before. Reporter Sharon Alseth tells more about an NCBA group that is encouraging young producers to get involved.
The Young Producers Council was a council that was established by NCBA about 4 years ago for NCBA members that are 18 to 35 to give them an opportunity not only to network and grow within the organization, but also to carry a policy voice representing that demographic.
The Young Producers Council is an active part of NCBA's membership. YPC members are involved in the policy decisions made by NCBA committees, and they're given the opportunity to learn from NCBA leadership at conferences and conventions.
It has full voting rights. One representative from YPC serves on every NCBA policy committee. And then we have activities, educational seminars, and events planned around helping our members better understand the policy initiatives of NCBA, better understand how they can navigate the leadership process of the organization, and just help them to network with existing members.
Members are given the opportunity to travel and network with industry professionals and NCBA leadership. The group focuses on building future leaders that will take the beef industry into the next generation.
You can be a member if you are an NCBA member, and you should do it for the connections you will make, on a social friendship level, but also potentially on a business level. We provide opportunities such as a slot at the Young Cattlemen's Conference and to the Five Nations Beef Alliance, educational programming, leadership development, stuff like that, and just a chance to connect with other young cattlemen across the nation, which I find we're a generally cool set of people, so it provides a forum for that.
The Young Producers Council is a great way to meet with other young leaders from across the country, and they're focusing on getting their message out through social media.
That's really kind of the hallmark that I think a lot of the older generation of NCBA recognizes us for. It was one of our first initiatives was developing a Facebook page. I think it's facebook.com/YPCbeef. We have a Twitter page and a Twitter account that's very active, and then an active blog called The Cattle Call. And so those were kind of the hallmark programs that established us, but in the last 4 years we've grown to so much more beyond that.
There are multiple outlets where people can hear about and connect with YPC, and we are very focused on that because we know that that's an important part of how our generation communicates.
The benefits of being a YPC member are countless, and it is important for producers, young and old, to get involved with NCBA in order to have a voice in industry decisions.
Don't just become an NCBA member and not get involved. YPC gives you that opportunity and really is that doorway that you can cross to really getting involved in the organization. Right away, take the time to get involved in one of our 4 task forces, whether it's policy, membership recruitment and promotion, communications, or even member development, focusing on leadership and networking. Any of those 4 different task forces can really help somebody get plugged in right away. Get to meet people within your demographic, your age group, and then grow that network from there.
Reporting from Denver, Colorado, I'm Sharon Alseth for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
Here in the studio to talk more about the Young Producers Council is Lance Zimmerman, chairman for YPC. Welcome to the show, Lance.
Thanks, Kevin. Glad to be here.
Well, why is a group like the YPC so important to the cattle industry?
Oh, absolutely. When you look at the Young Producers Council, it was actually started a few years ago by NCBA President Andy Gracetta. And he realized something I think any of us involved in the agriculture industry do, and that's that we need to continue to attract and give resources to younger producers. And so NCBA had this vision to create the Young Producers Council, and today it's a group of about 350 to 400 NCBA members that get direct access into the NCBA policy-making process. So it gives them a voice that otherwise they might not have.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about some of the activities that you typically get involved in throughout the year.
Well, because we just got started a few years ago, we're still kind of in that process-making stage and really getting into a flow of things. But we, over the last year, have really honed down our areas of involvement into 4 key areas. Communications, which involves getting agriculture and beef production's word out through social media avenues. Policy, getting involved in the policy-making process for NCBA. Member development, helping those young producers get the resources they need to be successful, whether that's leadership skills or ranch resources. And then finally, member recruitment, making sure that young producers realize what NCBA is all about and getting them involved as quickly as possible.
So how often do you meet? Is it just at NCBA convention or more often than that?
Correct. Right now we meet at both the summer meeting and the winter meeting, but the good news is even if people can't come, we know that's a big financial constraint, a big time constraint, especially for people that have young ranches, young families, and really have a lot of time commitments on their plate. They can still attend the meetings online. Last year here at the summer meeting, we did have the opportunity to join via webcast and had over 100 young producers on that webcast. And so in addition to that, we have a board, a leadership board of about a dozen folks that serve on the various policy committees representing the Young Producers Council for NCBA. We get together on a monthly basis and plan a lot of the activities, and we really anticipate this next fiscal year having some resources and opportunities to really offer young producers to kind of take that young producer to the next step in involvement in NCBA.
Outstanding. And tell us this, what is the baseline requirement for being involved in YPC, and how do folks get involved?
Absolutely. The best thing they can do is simply, as they pay their dues, get their bill in the mail, is make sure that when they fill out their membership form, have their birth date on it.
Gotcha.
Producers have to be NCBA members first and foremost, but then the age target is 18 to 35 years old. And so as long as they have their birth date on that membership form, they'll automatically be added to our email communications list and be aware of all the different activities we have going on. Then it's just a matter of showing up, dropping us an email, and voicing a desire to basically get plugged in.
That's outstanding. Thank you so much for your leadership. This is an exciting organization, and I hope some folks that are watching the show find ways to get involved and grow this organization even larger.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kevin.
If you're an NCBA member and between the ages of 18 and 35, you're eligible to join the Young Producers Council, and it's free to join. Just log on to our website, cattlemenandcattlemen.org, for more information. We'll be right back.
Wrap up your fall projects with the value and performance of a versatile 5D or 5E series utility tractor. For a limited time, get 0% financing for 60 months, plus $1,500 cash off with the purchase of 2 implements. Working a large acreage, small farm, or ranch, the 5D will tackle all your seasonal chores. Tougher chores? Power up with a new 5E. Either way, you save. But don't wait. As the season ends, so does this offer.
They're out there, lurking on your pasture, just waiting to infect your cattle as they graze. Cattle worms cost you money, but a Safeguard strategic deworming program allows you to deworm your cattle and lower worm burdens on your pasture, resulting in improved pregnancy rates and heavier calf weights. Plus, there's a Safeguard form for every operation, so start killing parasites where they lurk. Talk to your animal health provider today about a Safeguard strategic dewormer program. Safeguard. Think strategically. Act decisively.
Welcome back. There are thousands of beef producers across this great country, from the rolling hills of Kentucky to the high plains of Wyoming. All of them work together to produce top quality beef. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Matt Fleck visits Gilroy, California, where one family-run operation shares their perspective on raising cattle.
Nestled at the base of Henry W. Coe State Park near the town of Gilroy, California, you'll find the Bianchi Ranches, a 4th-generation seed stock cow-calf operation.
Our cattle operation is basically a Charolais-based herd. With we got some black Angus bulls we use here and there, and quite a few red Angus bulls on our heifers. But we run quite a few purebred Charolais cows, and then so our base is Charolais cross.
The Bianchis have a deeply rooted history in ranching, going back to the 1800s. Through the years, the Bianchi family has remained a prominent cattle family in the area.
I am the 3rd generation that's been on this ranch. My great-grandfather purchased it. They also had a hotel restaurant in town that was like the major stopping point between here and San Francisco. So it was a really popular place.
Great-grandfather started buying up little pieces and put them together one by one until he ended up with what he had, and then it's just been passed down from generations.
Pretty much only family works here. I mean, when we do some work, the neighbors come if we need to work a bunch of cows and things like that, but otherwise it's pretty much me, my husband, and our daughter Erica that do all the day-to-day things that are going on the ranch. She'd be the 4th generation that's been on the ranch.
The youngest generation of the Bianchis is a vital part of the family operation. Erica found her passion for agriculture through taking care of her own show cattle and by raising goats for local youth to show in contests.
Well, here on the ranch we have a really large cattle operation, and then we also have a goat operation, about 40 does. And what we do with the does is it was kind of started as just a little back burner side project, and it was new and interesting to me because we always knew about the cattle. I mean, I learned all that knowledge from my parents, but until I was probably about 6 or 7, we never had any goats. So it was all learning for me, and my mom are the ones mainly involved in it.
We have about 40 meat goats or boar goats. We raise those. We sell some project goats to kids for fairs, probably about 10 to 15 goats a year go that way.
So it's cool. When I was in FFA, I took my own goats to the fair and I was able to win, and I was really proud of that. And then it's cool to go watch other kids that have bought goats from us win and do good with them and enjoy their project.
Showing livestock is a large part of the Bianchi family. Even through their success, Chris Bianchi says they do it for more than the potential to win.
Years ago, we started out, we used to show between 40 and 60 head at a lot of county fairs all summer long in the state. But my daughter, my nieces and nephews are pretty actively still showing. They'll still go to between jackpots and shows, 12 or so shows a year. So we don't show as many as we used to. Before we were doing it, you can make money at being out and showing cattle. Now you do it because you like to do it and to promote the cattle.
We're honored to have a show bull of the year for the Hereford bull, and that was for our region. And then we're also the California beef seed stock producers of the year for the bulls we sell and everything. So we've had a really good year this last couple of years, so we were really fortunate.
I really like working with the show cattle. It's new and interesting, and it's amazing how much I'm still learning. I mean, I've been doing it for 10 years as a junior, and every day I go to a new show and make new friends and get to learn from them, so it's a really cool experience.
For Erica, showing cattle is more than just fun. She says it's an important way to keep her generation involved in the cattle industry.
It's important for the younger generation to get involved because agriculture advocacy and everything else going on right now is a major problem facing agriculture. And if we don't get the next generation more involved, there's going to be no future of agriculture, no feed to feed the world, and no food being developed. So without the younger generations, it's just going to hit a dead end and there's going to be nowhere to go.
And we're very, very, very happy that she wants to be so actively involved in everything that we do here. She's involved in everything from selection of animals to definitely doing all the work, to processing, to branding. She does most of the branding herself when we brand anymore, so definitely involved in everything. Without them, there'll be nobody else to continue on if there aren't, young kids growing up and wanting to do this.
Engaging the next generation of cattle ranchers is one part of the challenge facing the future of agriculture, but the Bianchis believe the enjoyment of cattle ranching will survive.
That's probably one of the best enjoyments you can get out of doing this. I mean, yeah, we're horseback quite a bit, and that's fun, and the scenery's really nice to look at. But when you're watching those animals grow from the day they're born till the time you ship them, which is 7-8 months later, you're watching an animal grow and how much it's doing. That's probably one of the most enjoyments out of the whole ranch.
I can't imagine doing anything else, to be honest. It's how I grew up.
It's a really good environment. I've learned a lot of things growing up in it, and I just love that I've had the opportunity to grow up in this situation.
Reporting from Gilroy, California, I'm Matt Fleck for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
Join the Bianchis as members of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. There's never been a better time to join. If you call us right now and become an NCBA member, we'll send you a free 100 milliliter bottle of Dectomax injectable from Pfizer Animal Health. And if you join NCBA as well as your state association, you'll receive a 200 milliliter bottle of Dectomax injectable. Just give us a call at 1-866-USA-BEEF or email us at c2c@beef.org. But remember, you must join both NCBA and your state association to get the 200 milliliter bottle of Dectomax injectable. We'll be right back.
No storm is too powerful for new Purina Wind and Rain Storm Minerals, formulated with ultimate weather resistance. That means more minerals in the feeder and available to your cattle. Wind and Rain Storm Minerals provide more consistent intake and balanced mineral nutrition to optimize herd health and breedback rates. See the difference at your local Purina dealer or visit cattlenutrition.com. Wind and Rain Storm Minerals, another way Purina is building better cattle.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Dan Thompson from Doc Talk. Each week on Doc Talk, we'll be discussing important issues such as livestock management and welfare, important and new agricultural research, and how to keep our food supply safe. My guests will include nationally and internationally known veterinarians and animal scientists. So if you farm, ranch, or eat, you'll find something of interest in every single episode. Watch Doc Talk every Monday on RFD TV at 4:30 p.m. or online at doctalktv.com.
We each have thousands of taste buds, and this beef dish uses every last one of them. Chef Laura Hagen from the Culinary Innovation Center is with us today. And Laura, you're going to tell us how to make a glazed tri-tip roast with creamy gorgonzola sauce, I understand. Well, first of all, tell us, Laura, about the tri-tip itself.
Well, the tri-tip is from the sirloin. It's a new cut to a relatively lot of people around the country. Started out west, so the westernmost states and southwesternmost states tend to have it in stores and make it available to people.
A lot of Californians love fixing a tri-tip.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be done in many different ways. For this recipe, we're roasting it.
Okay.
So we're using just our regular home oven, and we're going to marinate it first.
Okay.
We use a marinade that has a lot of what we call umami qualities. Umami is something that enhances beef. Beef already has natural umami, and umami is the fifth taste. In Japanese, it means deliciousness. So it's adding a really, really lovely flavor to this roast. We use balsamic vinegar, a little bit of soy sauce, a little bit of light brown sugar, and some garlic.
And how long will you marinate that?
Marinating, because this is a flavor marinade, it's not a tenderizing marinade. That sirloin tri-tip does not need to be tenderized.
Okay.
Probably anywhere from 30 minutes to about 2 hours is as far as you want to go with that. We save half of the marinade so that we can create the glaze, as it says in the recipe title. About partway through cooking, this roast will only take about 40 minutes.
Wow.
So when I'm doing a dinner party or something like that at home, this is a great one. You can pop it in and, you know, have a little bit of appetizers and that type of thing, and then take it out, and then you're good to go. It's really, really quick.
It's not a pot roast that you're going to cook all day long.
Exactly. This one we've taken out, and we're letting it rest.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned with the glaze, well, about partway through cooking, we're going to put the glaze on, so that in the final stages of cooking, it's going to get a nice glaze over the top. You can see it's got a really nice, nice glaze. We've also added a little bit of red onion.
Looks good.
And roasted those as well. So that's kind of nice to have that flavor as well. The topper to it is yet another umami element to this dish.
Okay.
So I mentioned umami means deliciousness.
Yes.
So we're going to add more flavor by creating this creamy gorgonzola sauce. We're doing it cold.
Oh.
So it's not going to be a warm sauce. We don't have to put it on the stovetop. This is something I could make in advance, put in the fridge, finish up the roast, and then bring it out about room temp to make sure that it's not too stiff.
Okay.
Cream cheese. Let's use a little bit of cream cheese in here. That's super easy. Soften it so it's a little easier to stir.
Okay.
And then we're going to use Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt is really, really creamy.
Is that what's different about it?
Yeah, it doesn't have regular yogurt you might find at the store sometimes has too much of a bite to it.
Okay.
This one tends to be a little bit more mellow, and it's got a really nice creamy quality.
All right. And you have blue cheese there, or what's that?
This is gorgonzola cheese.
That's of course.
Type of blue cheese.
Yeah.
If you have blue cheese in the fridge already, crumble it up, use that. If you're at the store and they don't have gorgonzola, really look for some sort of pungent cheese.
Okay.
I would go with blue cheese, but certainly you could use something that just has a little pungency to it. You want it to stand out.
Very good.
So we're going to drop that in there. A little bit of minced onion.
Sure.
And a little bit of just black pepper, a little bit. You could, if you don't want your sauce to have that that pepper in it, you could certainly use a little white pepper.
Okay.
And that won't change color.
Very good.
So we've got our mix going here.
Just mix it up, huh?
Yeah. And it really adds a lovely flavor to it. And because it's cold, when you put it onto the warm roast pieces, it's just going to start melting.
Drizzle a little bit.
So it'll have a really, really lovely texture.
Very good.
And we have created a plate over here.
Yeah, so this is the finished product.
Yes,
and,
it is.
And as you said, you would likely not serve that on the side. You would maybe drizzle
I might
that
drizzle
over.
it. I may actually give everybody who is sitting at my dinner party maybe a little tiny ramekin of it on the side.
Great. Yeah.
And then we did some beautiful broccoli and the red onion that came off the roasting pan.
Great looking dish. Laura, thank you so much for coming today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
For complete recipe details and to check out more great beef recipes, head to our website at cattlemantocattleman.org.
Sometimes you feel like a block, and sometimes you don't. That's why Sweet Licks gives you a choice, in the bag, in the block, or in the tub. And Sweet Licks offers a complete line of vitamin, mineral, protein, and medicated nutritional supplements in the form you want, to satisfy even the most discriminating domestic livestock, even the gourmet goat, or the finicky fowl, or the connoisseur cow. For information, 187 Sweet Licks. Profitability never tasted so sweet. A man came up to me at the Intertribal Ag Council in Tulsa. Most Native Americans I know are cowboys. They're livestock people. They run cattle and sheep. They like good horses and love rodeo. Well, Well, he was a cattle foreman on one of those big reservations out west, and he told me this story, and I made a poem from it. Gerald Two Bears was the foreman of the tribal branding crew. Lots of Indians who were cowboys came to do what they could do. Billy Strike was good at roping, and his medicine was strong, and he roped 'em automatic, till misfortune came along, 'cause he roped a good-sized heifer calf, but he roped her around the neck. She ran behind his horse's butt and put 'em both in check. The rope slid underneath his tail, which spooked the pony some, so of course he went to pitching, 'cause that nylon chafed his bum. Now like I said, that Billy's tough and wouldn't quit his dally. That rope was holding him down tight, made every peak and valley. His horse was snorting up the dirt like he was sweeping mines, and kicking himself sideways like a spring when it unwinds. Billy blew his left-hand stirrup, so he leaned against the tide, but his saddle got some cockeyed, slipping off the other side. His dally peeled off the horn. His anchor chain had broke. Billy flew like Humpty Dumpty and came down and broke his yoke. Gerald Two Bears ran to Billy, who lay still upon the ground. He said, "Billy, are you all right?" Billy never made a sound. He listened for his breathing, but he lay so awfully still. He said, "Billy, can you hear me?" Then, with superhuman will, Billy's eyelid raised, his eyeball turned and swiveled toward the source. Gerald leaned up close and whispered, "Billy, can I have your horse?" This is Baxter Black from out there.
Thanks, Baxter. Well, that does it for this week's edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. We'll see you right back here next week on RFD TV.